Anthony, it seems that the Democratic strategy, they're all going to get they're all going to release their taxes and push the president, say it's all about transparency. We know he says he's under audit. He can't do it. We fact-checked him. He absolutely can. Do you believe, or should he release his taxes so Democrats will stop hammering him, or does he not care and we'll never see him?
You're never going to see his tax returns. He's not going to release them.
Why?
He didn't release them last time. I think the main reason for him has to do with what happened to Governor Romney in 2012. The minute that Mitt Romney released his tax returns and they saw some offshore activity in the Cayman Islands, they exploited that and they began the process of demonizing Governor Romney. And so the president's a very rich guy. He's got a lot of tax shelters likely in that return as a result of real estate investment activity around the world.
Yes, but we know that from the New York Times, extensive reporting.
He's just not going to happen, because what he doesn't want to have happen is 500, 1,000, 1,500 reporters and investigative journalists and Oppo research people from around Washington explore his tax returns and pull out a sinister nugget or something like that, that he probably, knowing him, he probably didn't even look at. He probably has 10 accountants and 5 lawyers that did the return for him. He got the summary and signed the return. So he doesn't want a landmine that could potentially be in that return to explode on him during the re-election. And so that was a successful strategy in 2016. And I predict it will be a successful strategy in 2020, because at the end of the day, that's not going to be the rate limiting decision that people make. The Republicans obviously don't care about it. He has a 93% approval rating among Republican registered voters. The Democrats will make a big issue of it. That'll be one of the cornerstone issues for them. But he already won that issue last time. Didn't release the returns and won the election. So I don't see it happening.
It doesn't seem to be a cornerstone issue.
By the way, I think he has a constitutional right to the private. If you study the Fourth Amendment, I think he has a constitutional right to privacy.
So he does have an obligation to be transparent with the American people, and he got away with it. He was elected without showing the tax returns. At this point, I do think it is a better political strategy for Donald Trump to hunker down and to just hold on to those tax returns. And he obviously is heavily concerned about what would actually be revealed, and that's apparent. So we already have seen pretty much what we need to know from the New York Times. Incredible investigative reporting that won a Pulitzer on Monday on tax day, and showing just how shadily the Trump organization for decades manipulated tax laws.
It was an extraordinary report.
Let me ask both of you a question. So if it's so shady and the New York Times is so accurate, why hasn't he and/or the Trump organization over the last 45 years been prosecuted?
It may be legal.
Statute of limitations, too, on a lot of...
The president, to your exact point, the president may have employed tax shelters and other strategies that could be legal loopholes.
Well, his sister sure didn't want to face. His sister sure resigned her.
Okay, but that's different. His sister's obviously not the president. She's decided to live more privately than President Trump. But Justice Leonard Hand said in a very famous case, you can do anything as long as it's legal to avoid taxes. So if you're telling me, to your opinion that it's shady, but to the opinion of his tax lawyers and his tax accountants, and Justice Leonard Hand.
But Anthony, you just said it. There could be a nugget in there that voters won't like. So if I'm calling it shady and you're saying they won't like it, that's the same thing.
He knows the cesspool of Washington. And he's like, look, let's focus on issues that are very important to the American people, like growing the economy, increasing job activity, rising wages. All of these things are way more important to the American people than his tax returns. And he knows, because the way politics are played in our society right now and the demonization and picking one or two things, they buried Governor Romney as a result of an offshore Cayman Islands account. And then they told people on these false ads that he was giving women cancer in the middle of Michigan. Okay, and so they deformed and destroyed Romney's ability to define himself. And one thing about President Trump is he knows how to define himself. And now you just have to make a decision if you want to vote for that or you don't want to vote for that. But he's not releasing his tax returns.
Elise, Bernie Sanders.
I don't think they're getting anywhere near him, and I think the Supreme Court will rule that directionally in that way.
Well, we may find out. It may end up there. Bernie Sanders, like President Trump, sort of has an impenetrable base. releasing his taxes, now that people know his wealth, is it going to affect his base?
Absolutely not. I have started to say that Bernie Sanders has woke immunity. Anything that would be demanded of other candidates within the Democratic field, such as, his hiring practices and the way women are treated on his campaign, or his tax returns and how much of a benefit he's going to get from the Trump tax cuts, that, Bernie Sanders is simply immune to criticism from his hardcore base.
Anthony, former Massachusetts governor, has officially launched a GOP primary bid against President Trump. He joined our colleagues on Morning Joe this morning, and sort of the list you just went through is what he's focused on: wages, the economy. You didn't mention, but climate change and how it impacts the economy. Could he be a formidable opponent for the president, who at this time should be riding high, in theory, off the Mueller report, yet he's doubling down, and we could be digging back into child separation policy, which was a low point for the president?
Elise and I are talking about that at the break. I don't understand why the president's doing that. It's almost like there's an element of self-torture to doing that. You're riding high, and then you're reverting to things.
Self-torture? I'd say torture to those people.
Children,
Well, torture to the people, but also he's damaging himself. So, I mean, it's just stupid to go in that direction. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be honest with him that supports separating women from their children at the border.
Then why? Then tell me.
If he thinks that's a good policy, which he has said in the Oval Office last week that he's not going to do that, so I'll take him on his word. But that is a disastrous policy for the United States.
So take me into the White House. Where
un-American.
does it come from? How does this bubble to the top?
It's a really good question. If I had the answer, I would certainly explain it. But I think somebody signed something. Maybe it was Secretary Nielsen. 16
Who was not tough enough.
16,
but why was she not tough
ago.
enough for Donald Trump when she was separating mother and children?
Here's the biggest problem. He's the president. It's very hard to not conform your personality when you're with the president of the United States. And so he needs strong people around him that are going to tell him the truth. If he doesn't like it, then they get blown out of the office. So, I mean, that's the problem. You want to survive or you want to tell the truth. There's a dichotomy between those two things.
That's petrifying.
I would prefer to tell the truth, okay, which is why I wrote that editorial, which is why I hate child separation as an issue, and I don't know why he continues to bring it even into the news. It's just stupid, and it's hurtful to his campaign.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.